You do?
absolutely. And again, you're cutting out a little, but I'm going to try and just pretend that I can hear. I hear like 90% of what you're saying. So
Okie doke. So to start, I just want to thank you for taking the time out to sit down and chat with me. I suppose the first question is who are you and what's the project that you've been working on?
hi, my name is Tony Pinzzotto, and my show is called Peach Boy, a new musical. And I am the creator of Peach Boy. Unfortunately, my composer Phil Luna could not make it today. But Peach Boy is a coming of age tale based on a 200-year-old Japanese fairy tale called Momotaro the Peach Boy. And there was a long time ago, the story is that there was a woodcutter and his wife who wanted to have a child and could not. So they prayed to the gods. And one day when the mother was down by the stream, she saw this huge peach floating down the stream, and she lassos it and takes it home to eat with her husband. And when they crack the peach open, there's a baby boy inside of it. And they name him Momotaro, which is Japanese for first male born of the peach. And this is a very well-known fairy tale from Japan. And growing up, Momotaro, he hears stories of brave knights and slaying dragons and rescuing damsels in distress. So he grows up wanting to explore the world and be that world's hero. So just after turning 15, he professes his love to his true love, and her name is Hoseki. And he wants to take Hoseki with him to travel the world and explore. And the day he comes to get Hoseki, he's gone, she's saying. And she's been captured by the evil Oni, which is the ogre tribe. And he has a quest to go to Onigashima, which is the ogre island, to rescue her and conquer the ogres. And on his way, he meets three animals, which is a spotted dog and a monkey and a pheasant. And so it's a wonderful story because it is rooted really in deep culture from Japan. We've put our own little kind of spin on it. And I just really am excited to get this to its next phase. We had some great table reads back in 2019 when the first version of the script was completed. And in July of 2019, we had a sold out stage reading weekend at a theater called the Group Rep at the Lonnie Chapman. That's in North Hollywood out here in Los Angeles. And we sold out, and it was a great success. And it really did what I was hoping it would do. It would allow me to see it on stage to a point and know where we had to do some fixes. We've also reached out and hired a dramaturge who specializes in 19th century Edo period, which is pretty much where this story originates from. And he's been great in helping us make sure that this is in check with Japanese culture and history. So thanks to COVID, we're on pause, but we released a cast recording last year, which we're very excited about.
You touched on the idea of culture. So why the story? Why did you choose this story to develop into the musical?
That's a great question. Spoiler alert, I'm not Japanese, and but what I think is wonderful about this story is that it speaks to so many different nationalities and cultures. It's a story of love and adventure, and who doesn't like a story of love and adventure? I always say it's pretty much like the Japanese Wizard of Oz. It's a story that so many people in the Japanese culture grew up with. There is a song um, that is from this story that is hundreds of years old. And it's like a nursery rhyme, almost like Mary Had a Little Lamb, or the Itsy Bitsy Spider, but it's about Momotaro. And it was really fun in researching this. I had come across this melody and I was like, well, I have to use this. I have to use it in the show. So it's actually the opening melody of the first number. And one of the wonderful things that I love to tell is when we had our first table read, I have a dear friend, his name is Hisato, and Hisato was acting as director for the table read and the stage reading. And he was able to bring in some local Los Angeles actors that were Japanese and knew the story. And when we started this read through and played the melody, they all started singing along with it. So it was kind of cool because, like, oh my God, they know this. And then we had a dear, one of the actresses gave me a big hug afterwards. She said, thank you for doing this story, because you have to understand, this was the first story I was told as a child, was Momotaro. And the story is rooted in the folklore of fertility, but also it definitely is a wonderful story of friendship, and so I think it crosses a lot of boundaries and a lot of nationalities. I know it did for me. It really hit home with me, and I thought it would really hit home for a lot of other people.
Obviously, like you said, the ideas that it explores do sort of transcend just the Japanese culture on its own, but obviously bringing a light to these traditions and cultures of the Japanese people, obviously, which is really important right now, considering the current state, that the mistreatment of the Asian community right now. So obviously bringing awareness of culture and showing, things that these people have grown up on is obviously more impactful now more than ever.
Absolutely.
So what's next for the show? Where is it currently in its journey, and where do you want it to go?
Well, I've always said it's ripe and ready. The Peach Boy is ripe and ready for workshop production. Since we released the cast recording, so Phil, my composer, who was just nailed some of these melodies, like. So we did a lot of research with traditional Japanese themes and melodies and things like that. And right before lockdown, he had members of the original cast from the stage reading and other people come in and sing tracks. And the first part of lockdown, he was able to do some wonderful mixes and arrangements on these songs. And so that was a really big milestone, because I really wanted to get this out and take this time during lockdown to do something productive with it. Right now, I am actively petitioning theater companies. I would love to see this in New York. I'd love to see it in the West End. But we really need to get it to a next step, which is a workshop production. There's a wonderful lean in on this as far as themes that are nature related. I really tried to build in some nature themes in this, and I really feel like once on stage, this could absolutely be a stunningly beautiful production. It's not really what I would consider a children's show, although it's very family friendly, but we've tried to take a more sophisticated approach to the story. The love interest was not really part of the original fairy tale. And I really just think that really kind of rounds out the whole show. With the animals, with the stage reading, we had the animals played by actually actors, just playing animals. But my vision for this is to have the animals on stage as a traditional Japanese puppet. And they would be acting and singing puppeteers. So a very sophisticated approach to these animals. And so for the company that we can get to workshop this, that would be part of it, creating those fully realized animals, and hopefully get this in front of an audience. we're hoping that with theater slowly coming back, we do see this in a theater, maybe by fall, if we can get a theater company that really wants to take a stab at it.
Mm. So you obviously we touched on how it is a an ancient fairy tale retold, well, not retold, but reimagined through the medium of music. How did you find that sort of process of taking it from this ancient fairy tale and then adapting it to stage? Did you have to consult experts and consider cultural sort of influences now? Was there a lot of discussion around those sorts of things?
Well, I grew up, my major in college was music. And so I grew up learning a lot about different styles of music, pentatonic scales and things like that I knew were ingrained in the culture of the music there.
Mm-hmm.
We did a lot of research with not really a lot of new stuff, although there are some wonderful Japanese groups out there that are doing newer or pop songs with Japanese instruments like a Kyoto or drums or something like that. So eventually I would love to get their take on doing some of the songs from the show. But we really know what it was is we really kind of, I structured the show scene by scene of really where I wanted this plot and this story to go, and kind of looked at it as a whole, and then sat down with Phil and really what we called, like, created the musical blueprint for what needed to happen when the songs really plotted for music. We also tried to focus on varying rhythms and styles, keeping within the Japanese sound, but really trying to mix that up throughout the show. So if you listen to the cast recording, you're going to hear a lot of variance from song to song. And so that's kind of what we did. And then I went to Phil and I said, hey, I'm looking for a melody that is sort of conveys this kind of feeling. And he would sit down for a week or so, knock it out, send me the tracks, and then I would kind of put lyrics to it. And really, again, I tried to lean in on a lot of themes from Japanese culture. There's a whole song about cherry blossoms and how the female lead, her father is presumed dead, and he had a nickname for her named Cherry Blossom. And so there's a song about that, and that song actually comes back at the end and plays a key role in the plot of the show. There's tribal stuff in there with the onis and drum. There's a wonderful other fairy tale that I've heard that I've learned about called Susano and Susanu and the eight-headed dragon. And so we actually use this in the show as one of the stories that Momotaro's father tells him growing up. And it represents his identification with having courage to conquer the beast. And it's been such a delight to really dig deep and kind of bring that to this show.
You talked about earlier about how you've seen the early stages of it being on stage through the readings. What was that process like? How was the reading, the events?
It was quite fascinating because I know we didn't have a budget. The theater company was great working with me, and Hisato was wonderful because Hisato, he lives out here. He went to school in Japan and an American school, if I'm getting that correctly. Hopefully I am. And so he knows, I mean, he's Japanese. And so he was great with making sure that we were in check with the things we were doing. The show uses minimum 9 actors. And so we had 9 actors and a narrator on stage. We rehearsed for a week, maybe. And we had scripts in hand. we purposely did not want to bog down with lots of costumes and props and things like that. And it was wonderful to sit in the audience and listen to reactions of the people around me. Um, I had a dear friend who's a writer come and say, "I thought you were going to get this here, and you really threw me on my end, and it was a great twist." And I always also tell the story of our neighbor who was 5 years old, sitting in the audience right next to me, and I could hear her commenting about things that were happening in the show, and she like grasped it. I mean, she nailed it. So I think it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to really see what parts were working and what parts were not. And we had made a few changes since then. This story is about Momotaro's journey, and we had to get into that journey faster. I think in your review, you mentioned about the 8-minute opening song, which really just tells the story of how he grew from the peach and he was raised, and the Oni's attacking the village. And in the first versions of the show, that all happened within Act 1, and he didn't start the journey till Act 2. And we were like, this is not working. And so that's when we went back to the drawing board and decided the story that we want to tell here is the love story and rescuing and conquering the ogre. So how can we get to that story faster? And that was the purpose of the opening number, because we want people to know how he became their son, but we didn't want to make it the main focus of the story. So it was, that all came out of the stage reading.
And obviously, for any people who are going into creating their own musicals, this idea of constant evolution is something that they have to become familiar with. The idea, it does grow, it does change, it does adapt, and all for the better. But it is going to, it is a constant cycle of improvement.
A lot of work. Yeah. It doesn't happen overnight. That's the funny thing. I think that a lot of people think it does, and no. I mean, like, I've been living with this for 2 years, and I want it. And some shows aren't getting to the fully realized thing for 5, some shows 10 years. So the goal as a writer is to try and keep a pipeline going and certain projects going at different times. I really haven't dived into my next idea, but because I really want to give this the love that it needs. It's not an overnight process, and you really have to really continue to make the adjustments it needs to feel like it works.
We talked about what's next, but how can people stay up to date with the show? Where can they find you online and things like that?
Thank you for asking. So we have a website. It's peachboymusical.com. Again, peachboymusical.com. On that site, there are links to a listen page where you can connect. I beg everyone, because I think they'll love it, is get the cast recording. It's up there. You listen to it. You can listen to it on all major platforms: Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, however you like to listen to music, and keep an eye on that. And that's where all the updates are, the press updates. If you are looking to produce a show like this, which I think you'd be very happy with, feel free to reach out and contact me. We have a couple people looking at it, but nothing is set. So I'm always I just want a really fun company that really feels as passionate about it as I do. We also have a Peach Boy. We're on social media. So Peach Boy Musical on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And we try to give updates through that as much as possible.
Okay, so that's all my questions. So I just want to end by saying again, thank you very much for taking the time out to sit and chat with me. I will put the links to your website, my review, the soundtrack, all in the description of the video. So if people want to check it out, they can just scroll down and click away. But yeah, thank you very much for taking your time out. And I shall speak to you soon.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Have a great night.
You too. Thank you very much.
Bye.